Call the meeting to order. Just want to make sure everyone knows to push the button on your microphone when talking and release when you're through, please. Roll call.
Reed Farmer is here. Tom McLean, absent. Jeff Sweeney.
Here.
Brent Stacy.
Here.
Wayne Simons, absent. Jay Graham.
Here.
Alan Gill.
Here.
Linda Yockey here. Kenan Threet.
Here.
Lynn Kaziski. Larry Hasty.
Here.
I need a motion to approve October 24th minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Need approval of agenda. Take a voting of the minutes for October 28th.
Aye.
5. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion to approve agenda.
Move to approve. Second.
Okay, we have a public comment period. If anybody needs to speak, make sure that your name was listed. And when you come up, that you give your name. Okay. Okay. Anybody in the audience that got here late? Okay, new business.
Sorry, yeah. Is the applicants for the rezoning here? Okay. All right, so I'm going to read these names. Cesar Gamora Diaz and Jimmy Biola Pianagua? Yes. Okay. Last year, if you guys remember, last year they were here and they had purchased some property on Highway 41A North, close to the intersection of Highway 270, near the new Dollar General store, and they had applied to rezone their property to C2. And in that application, and I'm sure it was from my staff notes that I indicated that the C2 zoning classification, if you look at what our zoning resolution says is the appropriate areas for C2, was really not, that area was not really an appropriate area. And once I made you guys aware of that, you guys, I think, agreed with me and you voted it down. And then it went on to the county commission, and of course they did the same thing. And this time they're coming back asking for C1 zoning, which is just the opposite. I mean, our C1 zoning is what we call rural center district zoning. It is for crossroad communities where two highways meet, just like that area is. There are quite a few things around them and adjoining them that are zoned C1, including the property right to the south of it. Also, just a couple properties up to the north of it. You know, it's Garrett's Wrecker, and there's a car lot, and then of course the new Dollar General store is zone C1. There's a store on a little market and gas station on the corner that is still zoned ag, but it's grandfathered as a commercial and has a commercial use. It's pretty, so the staff has looked at this. And if you guys haven't noticed, I know I certainly have, because I pay a lot of attention to what's going on out in the county as far as what people are doing. And I think they've done a really good job with how they've treated that property. And I think it's a really good example of sometimes when people come in and they say, well, we're not going to, you know, mess up the streetscape and we're going to keep the house looking residential and all of that. They've done exactly that. So they've kept everything looking and improved it, put up a really nice fence. And so I'm pretty confident that they're going to do exactly what they said they're going to do. I think that's, so staff has no objections to it.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
This would be a motion for a favorable recommendation
To the county commission.
To the county commission.
to the county commission, yes.
Motion for a favorable recommendation to the county commission.
Okay.
Chris, you might explain to them what comes next.
Okay, for the applicants in the room and anybody else cares to learn about it, from here, what the planning commission has sole jurisdiction in some areas. In this particular area or any rezonings, the planning commission simply makes favorable or unfavorable recommendations to the county commission, which is our legislative body. So the county commission, because rezoning is a legislative act in law, the county commission is the only entity that actually has the power to change the zoning. So from here, next month, it will go to Rules and Legislative Committee. That will be in this room, and that Rules and Legislative Committee meeting they will bring it up on their agenda, and they'll do the same thing. They'll make a recommendation to the to the county commission. And then the next month, on the 14th, it'll go to the county commission meeting. It'll be on this floor, but down the hall in the main courtroom, the old courtroom, where the county commission chambers are. And you will need to come here at least 30 minutes early before the public hearing. There's always a public hearing before a rezoning application.
I do want to go on the,
We're
Okay.
ready for roll call.
Yes, ma'am.
Jeff Sweeney, Brent Stacy,
I'm gonna abstain from voting tonight.
Wayne Simons, not here, Jay Graham,
Yes.
Alan Gill,
Yes.
Linda Yaki, yes. Kenan Three,
Yes.
Lynn Kazitsky, and Larry Hasty.
Yes.
Now we're down to number 6, the election of officers. And Mr. Chairman, before we get started on the election of officers, I would like to mention that Planning Commission member Brent Stacy, seated to your right, he would like to make an announcement tonight about his status. You notice he just chose not to take a vote. So anyway, I'd like for you to give him the floor to let him talk.
So, before Brent's got 18 years with the planning commission. Chris and I figured out he started at 6 or 7 years old, so. But seriously, we want to thank him for everything he's contributed over that time, especially the last few years since I've been chairman. I'm thankful to have him on board, and it's going to be sad that he's leaving us, but we want to give him the opportunity to speak.
I just wanted to take a minute to tell all of you that I appreciate the years of service, each and every one of you. I think there's a lot of people, I'm kind of actually grateful this is being live streamed, because I think there's a lot of people that don't understand the time and dedication it takes that's put into this, time away from your family and whatnot. And the only reason I'm resigning is to be able to spend a little more time with my family and take care of some things that I need to take care of in our own, own businesses and whatnot. So anyway, I just wanted to make sure that I told each and every one of you, I've been on the board with several of you, I kind of surprised it's been 18 years, but I'm going to resign effective tonight. And just want to make sure I tell you thank you and appreciate you guys. It doesn't go unnoticed by everybody. even though it just seems like the last few years, even social media and everything else, has just got to the point where it doesn't do anything but bash us and the commissioners and everybody else. And I just think it's, it's horrible, especially with the amount of time and effort that's been put through it in the time. So anyway, appreciate you guys and thank you.
I would like to thank Brent for all he did over the years, the expertise that he gave, especially subdivision and all, and just say thank you is the best way I know how to put it. We all need to do that. Thank you.
We also have Tom, who is going to be resigning for family reasons, so we'll be looking for 2 seats to fill over the next month or 2 with the mayor, and Chris and I will work on that.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I would like to say something too. Of course, I've just really kind of got to know Tom over the last couple of years, and what a wonderful guy that is. I mean, we just love him to death, and he's been awesome to work with. And I started in this role in 2010, so 2 years after Mr. Stacy started, and so I guess we kind of grew up together. But I will say this, when I came into this during just right post-recession, I had just recently been, of course, I had law enforcement background, drug enforcement background, and then got custody of my son, at the age of 12. And when I did, I had an opportunity to go into real estate development. And I did all that. I did that for 8 years prior to the recession. And so, I was very involved in mainly constructing real estate subdivisions and residential subdivisions in Rutherford County and Murfreesboro. And so I had a bit of a background. And of course, when I came on board, there were quite a few other members that are no longer with us now. And I don't mean they're no longer with us. I just mean they're no longer part of the board. But had a lot of great people on this board, and I would say Brent has been one of my favorite because he really understands what's happening. When a developer comes in and he wants to do a certain thing, Brent can look at the plans and he immediately understands what it is that this developer is trying to do and how that's going to impact the neighbors, how that's going to impact the region, everything about it. He instantly knows that he can read a set of plans. And sometimes, people don't understand these boards are made up with people with lots of different backgrounds because lots of different types of decisions have to be made, and it's rare that one person has all of that expertise. And so, and just have somebody like Brent on board has been just a world of help to me, not just in these planning commission meetings, but in offline conversations and visits through the years where we've discussed not just what happens in these meetings, but future ideas for developing new ordinances and rules and regulations for our subdivision regulations, like just so many things. And I just want to express my appreciation because he's just done a fantastic job. And I don't know what we're going to do. We're going to try to find somebody with his kind of background. I don't know where we're going to do that, but thank you.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate that. Thank you, truly.
So Lynn has been working on a report for us for several months, and I called her last month and I said, can you give us an update? She showed me what she's been working on. I think it's going to be very helpful to the board, but also to the public, make it a whole lot easier for them to understand all of our classifications that we have. So Lynn, I'll turn it over to you to give a brief report on that.
I've been working on a zoning grid, basically, where it takes all of our various categories of use, principal uses, and puts them in a grid fashion and under what category the use is permitted. And you can take this grid and just look at it so much easier rather than having to flip through the book in a million different pages. And it's almost done. I just need to proofread it now, and then I'll turn it over to you, Blake, to be able to print out in this long format. And then I'm hoping that next week, when everybody has it in their hands, we can have a study session on it. And I have highlighted the areas that I think we need to look at, but as you're going through it, I'm sure there are going to be many areas. Reed already pointed out one, I barely even had it open, and he's like, well, that doesn't belong there. I'm like, okay, well, that's why we need a study session, because, you know, there's a lot to talk about in this. So I'm pretty excited about it. I think it will take us to the next level. I really do. And, you know, I hope we can get together as a board and really take this seriously and step up our code.
Yeah, and I'll follow up with just say, you know, you'll notice in our zoning resolution, when I came on board, was like 123 pages, and now we're up around 400. And so there was a number of years there where we were really making a lot of progress, and really there was just, I'm going to say, pre-recession, I mean, yeah, not pre-recession, but pre-COVID, there was a lot more building activity going on. People think it's a lot now, but there was a lot going on, you know, pre-recession. And so when I started looking at the numbers of what was happening prior to coming aboard, it was quite a bit different. And so there was just so many things popping up that were not in our book. And, you know, and our book says if it ain't in the book, you can't do it. And so there were obviously a lot of people would come in with land use ideas that sounded great. You know, I mean, it sounded like stuff you want your people to be able to do, but we didn't have any rules for that. And so when there's more activity happening, you know, there's more opportunities to learn what our deficiencies are in our resolution. And so, you know, there's a big evolution that went through there for a while, and so it's kind of hard to keep up. But one of the things we did do is we, just like what Lynn's been working on, is trying to convert some of that to tables, because they're visual. It's easy for people to sort of look at it and learn. And then, of course, you know, the amount of stuff we had and the volume of information that was adding to the book just got a little overwhelming. And so this is going to be tremendous, because this is, rather than me having to sit there and do all that, we can have a study session. We can kind of like hammer through it. Blake is here now. Blake can double check everything once we feel like we know where we are, and then I can sit down and I can just kind of copy and paste and create these tables, and I think what it could do is that it could make the books a little smaller. We could probably do some things to reduce the size of the book, because it's a little bit intimidating for the average Joe who doesn't deal with these rules and regulations all the time to really look at it and just at a glance understand it. It's impossible, because what you read in one section, if you don't read the other sections that are pertinent to it, then you don't have all the information. You might believe you can't do something, or you might believe you can do something, and both of those may be wrong. So people have to end up meeting with us, and we have to spend a lot of time meeting with people to help them understand what their rights are and what they can do. And sometimes when you have 400 pages of rules, sometimes there's some things in one area that provide an allowance where something in another area, just depends on how you look at it, and sometimes it's the question that you ask and not necessarily the activity. And what we want to do is streamline that so that is not the case anymore. What we want to do is make it very obvious that if there's something that somebody's allowed to do, we want them to instantly be able to know that, and if something that they can't do, then they want to see that too. But then they have to understand too that with every rule, there is a BZA that can overrule that. So people always have, in the law, people always have an opportunity to appeal. And with us, the first place is with the BZA, and if they exercise that option with the BZA and they're still not happy, they can then go to court and make the same challenge. So I want that to be more well understood as this book evolves, so that people understand what their full rights are and they don't always have to just ask me, because I'm not going to be here forever. And then the next person that comes around, it'll be easier for them. So thank you guys for your hard work and willingness to take that on, and I really appreciate that.
Chris, while you got the floor, you want to go ahead and give an update on our growth plan and overlay? Yeah, on the comprehensive plan,
you know, we started that in 2019, and then we just got a little bit done before COVID hit, then nothing for like 2 years. And then when the company, it pretty much gutted the company, and not the whole company nationwide, because they probably have 10,000 employees nationwide, but the ones we had in Middle Tennessee was a pretty small office, and they really had a hard time keeping that office staffed. And as soon as I would get a consultant and we would spend, you know, 2-3 months together, and we'd ramp it back up and get going again, they would quit and go someplace else. And then I'd be without a consultant all over again. And so that, you know, next thing I know, I'm 4 years into it, and now I guess we're, you know, even longer than that. And so back before the Christmas holidays, we had a final session, and we agreed that they would come back to me mid-February with a final draft. And then once I get the final, and that did not happen, I'm you know, I was telling the chairman a little bit earlier, I had lunch with one of the engineers that had been assigned to me today, but he just left. So the two guys I'm working with now are in Florida, so they're not in a place where I can just drive to Nashville and go visit them or whatever and have a conversation. These are all Zoom, you know, like not Zoom calls, but Teams meetings, so we're so close, and I have so many different versions of the drafts and maps and everything that, you know, if they were to fall off the edge of the planet tomorrow, I could finish the thing myself. But normally what would happen is they would have sent me the final draft in mid-February, and I would have then probably spent a week on it and cleaned it up and made sure everything was like it needed to be, and checked for typos and those kind of things, and presented you guys a clean final version of that report for you guys, for us to sit around and do the same thing that I've been doing for the last several years. And that has not happened yet, but I do expect within a week or so to have that final draft, and I don't know what has delayed it, but you know, it could be weather, it could be a lot of things. You know, they, believe it or not, Florida had just bad as weather as we did. So I don't know exactly, but anyway, and I've been a little overwhelmed to call them and check, and honestly, it's been a little bit nice that they hadn't called me. But anyway, but I understand the you know, urgency to get this thing done and get it out the door, because once we get it, then that's when the work really begins, and we'll have several meetings where we're just trying to muddle our way through it. And then, because it'll take some time, because it's a comprehensive report, you know, that's the name and that's what it is. So there's a lot to it. And then we'll have a series of public engagements as well, where we'll have to convene and probably have some meetings during the day, and I'll probably have some meetings at night that are separate from this meeting. So there'll be a lot of opportunities for the public to be able to engage and plug in and make their own recommendations. And so, and then once we get through that point, then it'll come back, and then I'll present the final draft and for you guys, for y'all to approve. So.
Okay, can we go to subdivision regulation discussion?
Yeah, I'm gonna turn this over to Linda. She's got some ideas that she wants to run by, and I want to take some notes, and then you guys can ask me any kind of questions about it afterwards.
I had asked Chris to think about what so many of us on this commission, and I think the land use plan will reflect too, is that density is kind of the key to where we look at things, and the closer you are to the city limits, the closer you are to the urban growth boundaries, should be the more dense areas of population. And then as you get out into the rural areas, less density. So some of the things that I have been asked to present, and myself have thought about as I travel the country roads is, for especially a major subdivision, that there needs to be a minimal width of the road so that farm equipment can get by as well as just moving through traffic. So that's one thing that I've brought up. Highway superintendent definitely needs to be involved in this, and probably him be the one to make a recommendation. The second part, this is Mark Clanton's part. As far is this the number of the number of cars that go through a road each day on number 2?
Yeah, the average,
Mark has the
average
ability.
daily traffic count.
Yeah,
82.
Mark has the ability now to pretty simply do road counts on these paved roads, and then as anything in number 3 for the planning commission, as we look at these subdivision changes, to take into consideration, of course, the public health and the safety and the welfare. What is that chart up at the top, Chris? Does that go with the other? Okay, that was with the other. It's not anything I had to talk about. So, what I asked Chris tonight to do is to move along with these subdivision regs changes. And so I'm asking all of you all to think about it and give him input so that we can, not only just road width, but the minimum acreage close to town, so urban growth boundary out in the county. But I would like to move along for this planning commission to be proactive in the subdivision regulations as they relate to the major subdivisions. So that's what all this is about. It's nothing specific, nothing I need to.
So I'll maybe try to zoom it in on for you guys a little bit more. I know we've had some pretty vicious battles in the past, with the public about certain things, and of course what you guys are looking at, within the constraints of the law and what your duties are, is sometimes a little bit different than maybe what the general public believes, is maybe common sense. And so there's a little bit of disconnect from time to time. But one thing that, as Linda has correctly pointed out, and that is the one thing that you guys do have sole power over is these subdivision regulations. So the minimum standards that we create for a subdivision are very important, because those are the rules that you can use to turn down something that may otherwise meet the standards. And when we say they meet the minimum standards, essentially the planning commission publishes a set of rules or subdivision regulations, and if an applicant brings us a plan and it meets all of the minimum standards, you're supposed to vote in favor of it. That's what the law says. So it tries to take the subjectivity out of your decision making so that it's fair across the board, and so that everybody feels like they've got the same treatment. And that's really what the law is trying to do. And so I think that maybe it hadn't got lost on a lot of you, that maybe what we really need to do is take a deep dive into the subdivision regulations, so that if there are things that stand out to you, like for Linda right now, it's road width, minimum road width, because we know, and I've had this same conversation with Kennan for years, because, Kennan is also a farmer, and so, he lives in an area that has a lot of farm equipment, not just his, other farmers that drive these big, heavy, sizable farm equipment down the public road, and sometimes it becomes a pretty dangerous situation. If you plug in a high-density residential subdivision in those same areas, you're just asking for trouble. And so what Linda wants to do is to really take a look and get Mark Clanton to plug in with us on it, as far as what a minimum roadway width that would be acceptable for a subdivision, a major subdivision. So, And, you know, when you talk about major subdivisions, really what we're talking about is more than 5, but realistically, what meets the criteria, what we normally think of would just be something that has its own new public road in it and probably at least 40 or 50 lots, but in some cases 70 or even 100. So we don't get the same type of big subdivisions that they get in the city, but the potential is there, obviously. So I think that's what she wants to do, and I've spoke with Mark about it offline, not in meetings, and I think he has an idea, and I think right now he's kind of around that 18 feet, 9 foot per lane type of road that he thinks would be suitable for, or anything less than that would be unsuitable for a large residential development. And we have a lot of roads out in the county that don't meet that requirement. And so it's scary, really, on some of these roads and what they're capable of serving. And what he's done now is he's invested in the equipment to do average daily traffic counts, which in a lot of cases, if we were wanting to know that information, we'd have to require the applicant to hire an engineer and do a traffic study. And in this case, we can just ask Mark to give us that information, and within with a week or so, we can have that information. And it's been really valuable. He's given me a lot of insights on some of the other projects that may or may not end up making it to where we are, because there's a lot of hurdles that sometimes the developers have to go through before they ever talk to us. But anyway, we've gotten a lot of insights on some things that I think are going to be very helpful to you guys to be able to make these decisions. And it just gives you less subjectivity. I mean, you know, like if it meets a certain criteria. The other thing you have to know is that there are roads. When you look at our road list in the county, it'll say from this mile marker on this road to this one, it's a certain width, and from this one to that one is a certain width. So just saying that the road has a certain width, there's very few roads that stay the same, that are consistent throughout, unless they're like a collector road. So anyway, those are things that we have to always keep in mind at the planning commission level. Is, you know, it wouldn't be a bad idea for each of you guys to have a copy of the road list, which I can make available to you, and that way you could keep it in your book, and when you're making these decisions, you have more information in which to draw from. So there's that. The other thing I think that I would really like to do this year is I want to rehab all of our PUD regulations. I think that our PUD regulations, if we're going to, because it doesn't really do much good to have regulations that everybody's afraid of. And so I really need, it's a great tool. And I want to show you guys something to give you an idea of, because most people have it in their head that a PUD is a certain thing, it's a certain animal. And there's a lot of different, every PUD's different. And it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. And so in this, I've got a pattern book right here for a PUD that a developer is wanting to present. Has not presented it formally yet, but I think it's something that the county commission, I think it's something that you guys would all feel favorable about. But it's way different than what you would expect, because most time people, when they come in with a PUD application, what they're looking for is really high density. But in reality, a PUD can have low density, but maybe they just want a commercial component to it. They might want to have a farm-to-table restaurant like this one wants to have, and a playground, and that kind of thing. Or maybe have something, one little thing that just sets it aside, that maybe one particular zoning classification doesn't solve, where the PUD does. So that is, I think, and what I was going to ask you guys tonight is, because I've got to make a recommendation to this developer as to how to move forward. Should they move forward and request a PUD zoning classification change? Or should they just say, okay, we're going to bifurcate this process, and we're going to keep A1 in the back, and we're going to do what we got to do in the front to achieve the commercial element that we want to have in the front? And I think my feeling about it is this planning commission, if we recommend that they go through with the PUD application, I think this planning commission is offering opportunity to educate the legislative body that these things, that just because it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it could be a platypus, you know, so it could be, you know, I mean, sometimes it's just different than we think. And I think that a lot of people have this idea of what a PUD is, and they just don't like it. The other thing I want to do is I really want to, if we elevate and put some minimum standards on what a minimum lot size can be in a PUD, and it comes up significantly, then I think really I think it would be better to change the name altogether to like planned rural development instead of planned planned unit development. So to make it really more realistic to what it actually is out in the county, and not something that somebody would confuse with something that happens inside a city. And so I think those would all be positive things that we could do. And maybe we need to look at some of these other zoning classifications, and if we're not going to be doing them, if we're not going to be recommending them, then we probably just need to eliminate them altogether. So anyway, that's all I have on that. I'll pass this around because I want you guys to look at it. It's broken up. There's 2 fold-out maps in it. The first one would show you what the front of it looks like that's along the highway, and then as you move past, you'll see that there's another fold-out, and it opens up and it shows you what the development itself would look like. It'd be an equestrian community. It would have a barn and stables and paddocks and that sort of stuff. The lots are all big. The minimum lot size that they're asking for is 2 acres, which is double what we asked, up to 6 acres. They've already done, had the forestry department do they've done a forestry plan, so they've identified all the old growth trees and all the native hardwoods, and they've identified all of the species of trees that are not natives. So they've just figured out what they're going to take out and what they're going to keep, and they're going to try to keep all the hardwoods. You'll see that most of the lots are surrounded with a treed canopy, which are fantastic. There's 2 places in the roadway where they've taken the road around a tree stand of old growth trees to try to save those. And these people, I think, have really done a good job. The developer has done some really nice subdivisions in Williamson County that are really high end, have high standards, and these lots would be upwards of $1 million. So these would be a high end development. It would open up on the back, also on Bunker Hill. This is on the county line of Rutherford and Bedford, up north of Rover, and it's right on the county line. You'll see when you look at it and you open it up, you'll see the county line is shown on the map. They own half of they own over 500 acres. Only about 270 is in Bedford. And so all we're going to see is what happens, is what they want to do in Bedford. But they will be developing in Rutherford too. And of course, there's a golf course on Bunker Hill, a little bit further up into Rutherford County. And so they want to take advantage of that. But you'll see that they're going to build a lake and a nice bridge, and it's really going to be nice. And it's not gated. It's going to be open to the public. They'll have a farm stands and raised beds in the front. They can sell produce and vegetables in the summer and things like that. They want a farm-to-table restaurant there. It's right on the county line. I think there's a lot of activity, really exciting things happening in Eagleville, and they want to take advantage of that. And they want the people that live there to be able to have some things to do and places to eat, that kind of stuff. They want to have an events venue so they could have weddings and whatnot to help kind of pay for all of that stuff. And that's really the only part of that. Those are the only things that really make it complicated. Other than that, most everything they'd want to do, we could just handle with A1 zoning, other than the commercial elements on the front. So anyway, I'm going to pass this around, and you guys just take your time and look at it as we move forward.
Go ahead, Kenneth.
I'd like to address what he's talking about and bring up one point. We need to consider the children that live in these subdivisions, where they can play. I've got one it's right on the Rutherford County line. It backs up to Bedford County out there on Midland Road. They got 3 houses per acre. You drive through it in the afternoons and you can't get through it for the kids in the road playing because the children have no place to play. It's just that simple. And in a subdivision like that, we need to consider making them put in some kind of playground where they have, room. And also, situations where there's space for people to walk people wanna walk now for exercise and all. I'm not saying it has to be a sidewalk everywhere, but it needs to be something. You have bicycle lanes, you can have, a lot of these things would improve,
This PUD plan has both a playground and a series of walking trails in it.
that
So
would be great.
It is.
I hadn't heard about
think
what you're
you'll-
talking about, but I love listening. It sounds it'd be wonderful.
I think you'll see in here, I think they planned 59 lots on 270 acres. That's very low density, so that give you some idea. But I think when you look at it, I think it's kind of right up your alley as far as what you'd be looking to do. You know, what we're worried about is too much growth, and the other thing I do want to point that out, there's been a lot of misinformation being put out by people that are talking about Bedford County's growth problem. And I did the numbers for the unincorporated areas in Bedford County over the last 5 years. We're standing at about 4.18% growth, which is below normal. What's happening in the city is a different story. They're quite a bit higher than that, but year to year, I talked to Tom this week, year to year, they're, maybe around 3%. It's not really high. Look at from the year, but if you look at it over the last 5 years, it's alarming. And the other thing that I know the city's concerned about, I know the Planning Commission is concerned about, is the amount of rental. It's in a city that's almost becoming a rental city. There's over 60% of the units in the city of Shelbyville that are rental. So those are things I know that the city is really trying to get a handle on. But I think when people are talking about the growth problem, what they don't know is that if the part that we're responsible for has lower than normal growth, the other parts, and we have one city, Normandy's actually had negative growth. So they only have 100 and something people, but they've lost like 11 people over the last 5 years, and it's been progressive. So it's not just something that happened in 1 year, like one family moved. It's been progressive. So those are interesting things. But I'm glad you brought that up, because as you pass this around, you'll see that it has those elements that I think are important to you, and plus. It's an equestrian community. They're big lots, and I think the kids in this community would have a lot of places to play. And it's not gated, where the playground would be accessible to people who don't live there. So I know that came up in the PUD that somebody wanted to do on Longview Road is would other kids be able to play in this development? And of course, I don't know that the developer was keen about that, but some people complain, well, why wouldn't my kids be able to play there? And I don't know that that's a realistic argument or not if you don't live there, but that's not the case with this one.
So I don't want to drop this. So, Mr. Chairman, maybe next meeting, Mark Clanton could come, and then we could propose a subdivision regulation change. Of course, we'd have to have a public hearing. So it'll take 2 or 3 months. So I don't want this to drop. I want to move on with it. So that's what I recommend we do. We don't have to take a vote. But if Mark could come next month and make a recommendation to us for that particular subdivision reg change, and then the next month we'd have to have a public hearing, right? And then...
All right, next item is election of officers for 2026.
Nominate Jeff Sweeney.
I'm sorry, that we elect the same officers that we have had in the past.
And Jeff can serve one more year.
Okay, that's fine.
4-year max. It's 2 or 3 years ago we did a 4-year max on the president. So he's got one more year, so he
That
would
would be great.
eligible.
So I would like to make that motion if we get a second. Thank you.
I'll second.
Let's do a roll call, please.
Larry Hasty.
Aye.
Lynn Kaczynski. Yes. Kenan Threet. Yes. Linda Yaki, yes. Alan Gill.
Yes.
Jay Graham,
Yes.
Tom McLean, I'm sorry, Reed Farmer,
Yes.
Okay, we need to make a motion to accept in-service training for planning commission members. I believe everyone has their hours. Is that correct, Chris?
Well, that's debatable. I guess, I think that we'd prepared these minutes for the meeting, maybe and we couldn't do it for the last, I guess, weather or whatever. So I think some people have gotten some extra hours since we've updated this, but I know Barbara has the hours, but I don't know if all of it got put on here. Linda, do you know how many hours? Okay, so you have your 4. Reed, you've got your 4. Alan, you've got your 4. Larry,
Yes.
okay.
I got mine.
Larry, Ken? Okay. Okay.
Wayne Simons has his, I know.
Okay. Lynn, you have yours, right? Okay. And so, and Brent doesn't, but it doesn't matter because this is your last night. And so, okay. And Jeff? Okay. All right. Well, you'd have a quorum. Technically, I guess Ken can't vote because he doesn't have his hours in, but I don't think it matters for tonight. But so he'll just bring his hours next time and okay. Just take a vote and then Ken stay out of this one.
Okay, we need to make a vote on the in-service training. I need a motion, please.
So move.
Second. All in favor? Okay, as part of this, we don't have this, but I want to make sure everyone has signed their ethics paperwork and got them turned in. I wanted to make sure everyone had it turned in.
I haven't received anything to send in. I talked to Barbara about that and said, if you don't get anything, you don't need to send it in.
Okay, I think they gave us till the end of this month because of weather. It's the last email I saw.
I didn't get an email.
Can you follow up? Okay, old business. Mr. Gill?
I got it. Before that, I'd like to say something about Brent. We sat by each other, you know, during a lot of them, and I knew his wisdom and expertise because he showed it a lot. But his integrity and courage, I saw a lot of courage when he had neighbors and family members that may have not been happy with his decision, but he made it anyway. So I appreciated that, and thank you, Brent.
Thank you, Alan. I appreciate that.
In November, the county commission appointed a committee. It's a wastewater advisory committee of 7, and one Lynn is an important member of that committee, and when they did that at the same time, they elected me chairman. I don't think I've ever heard that happen before. I don't know. I don't understand that, but it's a good group. It's a good knowledge group that I think have the Bedford County, the good of Bedford County for the committee, and we've had a meeting every month since then. The first meeting in December was it was kind of an organizational meeting to get things straight and officers, and then the next one we had and Lynn wrote us up some bylaws, and then on our next meeting in January we passed those bylaws, and then we had a speaker. We had the engineer from the Consolidated Utility District, Murfreesboro, Mr. Jason Laxon. He came and spoke, and real informative, and also the CEO came. So we had both of them there. So we learned a lot on that one. And then the next meeting, we had the Terry Henry, and he's a state soil scientist. So we got a good education on soil. So we're getting kind of a good background so we've got kind of who I think are modeling, and also we've gotten, all of us have gotten the rules and regulations from Consolidated. Their present rules, and also their ones that they're considering. There's going to be some changes, because we've learning about, how they work and what's used to work now and what they're looking forward to, going to, and changes that they're maybe recommending. And we've got those as well. And then and hopefully it's kind of pretty complicated. Some of it, it's hard to understand. So this next month we've already got a program coming up, and it's somebody that's installed them, and it's Eric Price. Eric's going to come speak to us, and he's with Hawkins and Price, and he's installed them. So and I've also asked him. I sent him those rules and regulations on both sides to see what he thinks may be good for Bedford County. Maybe there's arguments that the county wants it even more more restrictive, or making it. There's just a lot of things that we've got to look at, but we don't know how many utility districts are going to take them. I mean, we've had John Freeman. He was at our first meeting when we had Laxon, the engineer there. So he had John had a lot of input. He knows a lot going on, and we're going to continue to kind of lean on him some, and you got to kind of try to understand where the utility district come and the county, and have a lot what might be too much, or we want what's best for Bedford County. We know we're going to have to consider developers and also landowners, because one big thing is the alternate sites. I think that's one of the big issues. One of the biggest issues, and the cost. We got we got to worry about the ultimate cost of the homeowner, buying the house that's in those developments. But the main thing is we want to, do what's best for Bedford County, what's best for the future of maybe developments. Not necessarily what's best for developers, but what's best for the looking down the road. So we got but we're way along on it, and we were challenged, or I guess that wasn't a challenge. We were told we had to have it in a year, and but we're getting pretty close to where we're going to probably start narrowing it down to some type of document. And I don't know, and that's going to be up to the committee, if we have just one document where this is what we want, and then we bring it before the planning commission, or maybe some the main draft, and then some of the things that might be need to be decided by the planning commission. Maybe the hard ones, then probably Chris, maybe need to have a public hearing, before that. I guess we would have to anyway. But and someone suggested that for the committee, but I don't know whether they'll do that or not. I don't know. But we're getting real close to where I don't know what else we can, who else we can get to, speak to us, because we pretty much got, the installer, then the soil man, and then somebody from a utility district to talk to us. So, we'll probably, within a few months, we'll probably hear one more from, hear this one, and then maybe we'll have a meeting and then discuss it, and we might need more when we decide. But I'm gonna say, and we're gonna try to meet every month until we get something. And I feel within 3 or 4 months we'll be Chris will be, talking to you about, I don't know who actually writes up the, the document. I don't know that, but, well, yeah. But we'll probably be leaning back on you, Chris, and then, and see where we need to go there. But we're way along on it, Mr. Chairman.
I want to thank Alan for stepping up. I know this was a pretty public board committee that was put together. I think Alan has done a great job expediting this very quickly, bringing people in to answer what we don't know and how to improve what we're doing. I just want to make sure I'm still getting calls from people that are getting misinformation. This has nothing to do with your septic system that's on your individual lot. We are not going to come on your property and tell you what to do with your septic system. So I just want to make sure that's true information that we're putting out. But I do think you have a great group of people. I appreciate the time and energy that Lynn has put in on these tasks that we've given her, 50, 60 hours on this one. So I'm thankful for her time and her energy in putting that together.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to do the same thing. One, I wanted to speak to Alan for a second, and that is last Friday I got an email from some engineers from SEC in Murfreesboro, and they actually designed step systems. And one of the principals of the company actually owns a wastewater company, public wastewater company that owns them and manages them. So they wanted to come and talk to me, and I told them, I gave them y'all's email addresses, and I said they would love to speak, because that way then you can have somebody who actually designs them, and somebody that owns them and knows what their expectations are. So I've sent them to you. They should be contacting you pretty soon. SEC. The initials, S, Sam, E, Edwards, C, Charlie. The other thing, yes, we would have to have a public hearing anytime we amend the subregs. And then I was going to tell you, I was going to announce to everybody here, I think most of you know that Governor Lee appointed me to the Duck River Duck River Watershed Planning Partnership. I've got wastewater on my mind. And so that we're in the second year. We just began our second year, and we just had our first meeting 2 weeks ago. In that meeting, Commissioner Salyers, the Commissioner Salyers is the Commissioner of TDEC. He is our chairperson of the 19-member committee. And he, in the first meeting 2 weeks ago, created a new committee for this year, and he appointed me as the chairperson of that committee. And that committee is charged with taking the midterm report that we produced in November and trying to actionalize those recommendations. So we'll be looking at things like the raising of the Normandy Dam, and we're going to compare that with maybe a pipeline as a interbasin transfer from Timms Ford, and we're going to try to compare what the costs are for those things and the feasibility and all those kind of things. We'll be looking at trying to put a dollar figure and an engineering study to each one of those things. And as a result, Speaker Marsh, he put him on as my vice chair, and so that was good. I actually have him and Senator Hensley. Those are the only two legislators on the 19-member partnership. I got both of them on my committee. But some of the things we're looking at involve wastewater, and there's not a single member that has a wastewater background. So I asked the Commissioner's office if I would, because he said I was free to appoint other members from the group to actionalize my group, and I knew I could do that, but I didn't know if I could appoint somebody that's not a member of, or not actually on the partnership. But I needed somebody with wastewater background, and I asked them if I could appoint Jason Reese, who's the CEO or the general manager of Shelbyville Power, Water, Sewer, and he allowed me to do that, and I was able to get him appointed, and so he'll have his first meeting with me Thursday of this week in Nashville. The legislature's in session right now, so we're going to have our meetings at Pat's office, so we'll be able to do that there. But I just want to let you guys know that we got one more year of this, so we get done, but this is a pretty important committee that I'm going to be chairing, and so I think we're going to be doing some really good things, and at least I'll be able to make some good reports to you guys and kind of keep up with what we're doing. All I have, Chairman.
All right, any other old business? Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.